Yo, this is your wrestling rock star, Ryan Howe. You're listening to Interactive Wrestling Radio. Keep rocking, guys. Listen, take it easy.
Hey, guys. Welcome to another edition of Interactive Wrestling Radio featuring the interactive interview right here on WrestlingEpicenter.com. It's James Walsh, joined shortly by Patrick Kelly. But in just a moment, we're going to have on the Newsmaker line our guest of the week, from TNA Gut Check and WWE Tough Enough, the one and only Ryan Howe joins us. Got to tell you, I'm a big fan of this guy. Hope you guys enjoy the interview. Get to know Mr. Howe just a little bit, and I think you're going to be hearing a lot of his name in the near future. Be sure and check us out on Facebook. Click that like button. Just type in the search box Wrestling Epicenter will come up. And click that like button. We'd love to have you as a Facebook friend, follower, whatever you want to call it.
Yo, maniacs, this is Hulk Hogan, the greatest of all time, and you're listening to The Blaze. So what you gonna do when Hulk Hogan in Blaze of Mania runs wild on you?
Interactive Wrestling.
And welcome back to Interactive Wrestling Radio. On the Newsmaker line with us right now is a guy who just appeared on TNA Gut Check, Ryan Howe. Ryan, are you with us?
Yo, I sure am. You count on it. What's going on, man?
Great to talk to you, man. I got to tell you, I've been telling people on this show, and I just told you off the air, that I've been a fan of your gimmick, your guitar player gimmick, for such a long time, since basically the first time I saw you appear on OVW doing it.
Cool.
It's really very cool for all us rock fans out there. We really don't have a guy to look up to right now, so it's cool to see somebody coming out there playing the guitar the way you do.
That's great, man. Yeah, it's like, you know, it's not like I'm playing a part. I'm kind of legitimately just doing something I've always done and loved, and I love wrestling just as much. You know, if I just happen to be, you know, that just happens to be kind of the career choice for me over the two, you know, but play your guitar and do it too, that's pretty badass, you know?
Absolutely, that is very cool. I haven't seen anybody do that since Max Payne in the old WCW. I don't even know if that rings a bell, but...
yeah, I was, some of those guys, you know, it wasn't, like, ever since I started that, and kind of, guys would bring up other guys like Man Mountain Rock and, of course, Van Hammer, you know, like, I almost forgot about, because I'm only 25, you know, like, in that sense, so... Those guys were, once I looked them up, I could remember them, but I really, you know, it's kind of like...
It's been a long time.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Van Hammer, he was doing it in 91, and then Max Payne was nowhere near as physically fit as you. He is Man Mountain Rock. He was a couple years later. So, yeah, I mean, it's been a long time since we had a legitimate guitar player out there. I don't even know if Van Hammer could play the guitar, but there you go.
I'm not sure either. I think last I'd seen, I have no idea.
He's a security. Yeah, he's a security guard in Maryland, I think, if I heard last. So he's doing.
Is he okay? I was going to say, all I knew was he lived in the Northeast, and I didn't know what he did. If it was some kind of.
Very cool. Yeah. Well, I'm a big fan of what you're doing, and I was happy to see on TNA Gut Check just a few weeks ago. It seems like every time I go on vacation, somebody that I'm a fan of ends up on Gut Check. So hopefully that continues. I was on vacation at the time, and I'm marked out in the hotel room seeing you come out. How was it? How did you enjoy the experience of working at Impact Wrestling?
Man, it was incredible. And on the side note, I'm glad I could make your vacation complete. You know, if you're having a good time, and then you can turn on the TV and be like, "Holy shit, this is great!" Just one of those little funny memories. But they were. I mean, honest to God, man, just walked in there and just treated like I felt like a sense of belonging there. It wasn't kind of that I'm here, I'm a rookie kid trying to get a job. Like, I just did my thing. Nobody, you know, I knew what I had to do, go do that match and make the most of it and just show, you know, a little bit of me, you know, that little, you know, it's always used that term flavor ice cream, but, you know, that little twist that they don't have, you know, that maybe it was having the confidence that that's something I know they don't have there and they've really never had. And love me or hate me, you know, those people can feed off that and say, wow, we can hate this guy for a different reason, or we can love him for a different reason, you know?
Absolutely. And one of the things you already mentioned his name, we've actually already talked about him, but immediately, as soon as you came out, even while you were walking down the ramp, Taz immediately threw the bomb out there about Van Hammer. And I mean, how did you take that? Did you take that as a compliment or a comparison, or how do you as a guy portraying the role and doing what you do, how do you take that comparison?
We're getting to, of course, I didn't know at the time that he was saying all that, and then getting a ton of tweets and things, you know, people, you know, like just humorous things on Van Hammer being mentioned. I looked it up and watched it, and I you know, the first thing I thought was, well, Van Hammer's gotten more coverage than in the past week than he did in 10 years, you know?
Yeah, at least, 15
maybe
or so, yeah.
15, yeah. But I really, no offense at all taken to it, because that was one guy that would be considered a predecessor to me and somebody that I would look up to. And that's somebody that I have issues with, because I've legitimately done this rock and roll thing and kind of lived it. The guy, 90% of the rock stars and people we've met and worked with, and the guys that I play in bands with are pretty humble guys and pretty mellow, laid back. Everybody's got their vices and do what they do. But I always just, I've never been the air guitar player, and almost to some degree taken offense to it, because I was just in my mind, it's a poser, and I've never, I just wore what I want, when I wanted, how I wanted. And now you've got to step back and look at it from a superficial, standpoint and see how do people stereotype a rock star and that kind of thing. So that being said, guys like Van Hammer I can watch and see and be like, this is what I want people to look at me as. This is what I want them to, I want them to see me as me, in the end. But, I want them to know that, I'm a rock and roller. It's my thing. It's what I do, so.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. And I'll ask you the question that they kind of posed to you when they were giving you your judgment on I keep saying Tough Enough, on Gut Check. They didn't know why you chose wrestling over music, because you are such a good guitar player. I guess the simple question is, why did you choose wrestling over music?
In music, obviously in a band, you have multiple guys to work with, and not, gloating or saying that I'm any better than anybody, but I always was the guy that did the footwork. Other guys might like to party. The other guys, and typically they do a lot. They just like to party, and have a good time. And I've always been kind of higher strung and worried about the next goal and the next thing that needs done. So I always felt like it was me writing the songs, me recording the songs, me paying for the studio time, doing the studio time, driving the bus, setting up the stage, tearing down the stage because they were too drunk or off, frantically around everywhere, but there to help,
Right.
At that point, you just get tired of it, and you say, man, am I being held back or what? And I realized that, having, happenstance, just got into wrestling and realized within, just the very beginning of it, that what I put into it was what I got out of it, and it's all me. And maybe there's a part of me that has always enjoyed the spotlight. I've always enjoyed singing, and I always felt like I pulled back because I'd rather do lead guitar, and I didn't feel like it was my place to do both in a band. So I'd hire a singer, which therefore goes back to now you're relying on more people. So now I'm like, it is me. It's what I want to be. It's what I want to do, and I do get that spotlight, and I do get what I put into it. And if I don't make it doing it, I think if you do everything what you think is right, given at that point in time, the right decisions in that, you never fail because it's on your own terms. You're not out to, so if that makes sense, that's why, it's kind of like it's all you. And of course, just the business itself is something that's just, I love entertainment. That's my addiction, and it is the ultimate form of that. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. I've always enjoyed acting and things like that, and this is just really just going off raw emotion. I think if you're a charismatic person, people will find you entertaining, gravitate to watch you on TV, and then all of a sudden you can make a living doing this,
Right. It's very cool watching your intro video on Gut Check, because your story is actually very, very similar to Hulk Hogan's story. If you think about it, you're invited to be a wrestler by, wrestlers attending your shows. That's certainly a good person to have something like that in common with.
It definitely is, and I hope at some point in time I get to sit down and just kind of shoot the shit with him on that. I'd like to ask him in particular about his ruckus days and that, because ever since, I've always, like I said in the video, I always, when they approached me, I said if I wasn't a rock star, I wanted to be a pro wrestler. I'm responsible like that, I guess. But those are the only two things I ever wanted to do that I thought would make me happy. And the hybrid of the two is pretty badass. But to be able to do this and just, I don't know, it's just cool. And like I never even really thought about the idea that he did, that is how he got into it, was through.
Yeah, he was playing bass guitar for a rock band in the 70s, yeah.
Yeah, bass guitar. I think the band was called Ruckus.
I think it was called Ruckus, yeah. I'm the biggest Hogan fan in the world, but I got to be honest, I never heard the band play, but that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I remember when I was younger, I'd heard that. And we all use different things for inspiration. There's plenty of Arnold Schwarzenegger stories and things, just different guys you hear and do. And that was one of those inspirational things in my adolescence, was hearing that Hogan story, and it kind of made me research it because I thought it was neat. I thought, well, I'll probably never be a wrestler, but, because I went to a small school, they didn't have wrestling, and I assumed you needed a amateur wrestling background to get into this. Apparently, you just need to play guitar really badass, and it's all okay.
Very cool, very cool. You talked a little bit about recording. What was the band name when you recorded some stuff?
I did several bands. The one that was my bread and butter, same band since I was 13 years old, was called Relax, and did a lot of, we called it throwback rock. It was like, and we termed it relapse rock too, because it was just like the guy we ended up with singing had more of that Danzig-y, that lower range, kind of gruff, a little bit raspy, and then the instrumentals were everything from, I always say Chuck Berry to Buck Cherry, but
that's
like
cool,
my biggest influence really is like AC/DC, and you had other guys in there that, one guy's a huge grunge guy, just loves Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains, so there's a lot of influences there, and it was almost a hybrid of all these, like the biggest genres of rock music, in its heydays, throughout basically from the 60s on up. So it was really cool, and just a very always really focused on writing hooks, and as far in a hook, we call it music, is just that's your chorus, or it might be a guitar riff, it might be whatever, but it's that thing that people can catch on a radio and be like, man, I like this. And I think that's why for us, when we be playing in a bar, it's kind of a compliment when people are like, was that somebody else's song or yours? Because it's not saying that it sounds generic, but it sounds like anthemic, where they can,
yeah, absolutely.
They bob their head to it right away, and that's cool. So, but there's that band. There's another one called Dave Wallace Band. That was pretty cool. A guy that led that, I came in and just did a bunch of instruments with him. But those are the two that I traveled with quite a bit. And Relapse was that main one. We did some shows with, after a certain point in time, when I had to be like 19, we were in college. I think most of us, I think one of us was not, but we had the opportunity to open for Puddle of Mud, and then we had their booking agency did open for Saliva, and then went on the road, did a couple shows at Skid Row, and
wow.
that actually was one of those shows that I met some wrestlers at in Milwaukee. So.
Yeah, there's two of the three I'm big fans of, Saliva and Skid Row, and that's very cool that you guys opened for those guys. Wow.
Yeah,
cool.
It's very cool. And it was kind of testimony, because what got us those gigs was just, we had one booking agency that got us the one, and then because that touring agency for that particular band liked us and said, you might fit in well with these guys or these guys, and, it kind of snowballs, but the fact that you're playing is what gets you there. You can't get much more of a compliment than that. Because you've got something that's.
Conversely, how did the crowd that turned up, like Skid Row, I'm going to see them next month, and these guys, their fan base, they go back 25 years since their first album came out, as old as you are. When you go out there, everybody wants to hear them do songs from the first two albums, and that fan base has their genre that they're already locked into. Is it difficult to go out there and perform new songs for a crowd that's very basically unsuspecting, for lack of a better term?
Like for us, you mean for opening?
Yeah,
that kind of thing, or
absolutely, yeah. As the opening act for those guys.
That's a good question, man. And you know what? That's one of the many, many, many parallels between wrestling and the stage that I, that I draw, and I think it's helped me in wrestling actually. But it's like if you're a new guy wrestling, I think in a nutshell what I'll say flat out is you just need to be different. Something that those people see, because you're playing new songs and stuff that they're like, oh man, is it, what do we think about these guys? Do we even care? And as long as you get some kind of applause or reaction at the end, it's good. And I noticed for us, we'd start playing and we'd do something different to start it off, where almost you pretend you're the star. You're not going to upstage them because they get the big backdrop, they get the pyros, they get all that, and you're just playing. So whatever we do with our instruments isn't going to be considered, trying to showboat or whatever. So I would always come up with something cool, like maybe like some really rock, just driving rock beat, like build up that led into the Star Spangled Banner with My Teeth, or some kind of high energy thing, or just anything that people right away were like, holy shit, singer would do a backflip or something, just for people to catch their attention. And then, of course, you take your songs and think, okay, we need to apply who we're opening for, or pick these more, catered songs to that sound. And then which ones are the most hooky, which have the best beat to bob your head to. So that way when the whole band kicks in, they're just, they're banging their head. And that was kind of my strategy on trying to hook a crowd and do that. And then I was also a big fan of making transitions where only so often between songs we would actually stop and, hello Milwaukee kind of thing, to be stereotypical, But otherwise, I would musically conduct this and try to transition from whether the beat changed or the key changed or whatever, the rhythm of the song, where something would keep going, whether it was a hi-hat or we do some really cut-off stop and the guitar starts the riff, or something to where it's almost like a medley, just all chained together. And it's a little different because bands, it's not like we're just up there jamming. We're putting on a show and a performance, And,
very cool.
And with wrestling, the parallel is if I'm going out and doing a dark match, they don't know who I am, so, you want them to form some kind of opinion on you. And good thing about wrestling is they can absolutely hate you or love you, whichever. And you go out there and hold your head, high, and be like, look, I'm the man right now, and I'm watching. And, I'm in this ring, and you're not, and you're watching me, and you just be something that they, maybe that the guys think are cool and want to go have a beer with, or they hate you because they know their chick is thinking about you and they'll be thinking about you later that night, or or whatever it is, or just be that guy that for me, it's neat because if, say, some guy brings his kid and I come out playing the guitar and do the thing with my teeth like Jimi Hendrix,
Right.
His dad can be like, Jimi Hendrix used to do that. And now they've got a conversation, and it's all based about something I did. Or, I look like this 80s rock star, and the dad can go on about his heyday in the 80s. And it puts a smile on his face because he's probably remembering his 20s now, that kind of thing. So now I've done something they can relate to. So, that's kind of the strategy, opening for a band or being like a rookie or an unknown name wrestling for a new company.
Very cool, very cool. So speaking of shows like Gut Check or like the Gut Check on Impact and so forth, you did Tough Enough under Steve Austin. And how was that experience? I mean, you're actually one of the very few guys who could say that they've done both kind of audition shows, for lack of a better term, for the two major companies right now. How was the experience working for the WWE Tough Enough?
Tough Enough was great. I mean, that was my first. That's something I could never take back for the world, and it took me just the biggest springboard I could possibly have for breaking into this business. Because at that time, I think the month that I started that show, I was exactly 2 years into having taken my first bump, and that's kind of, considering some of the guys on there, you're looking at 12 years or 16 or whatever Matt Cross had. Really the youngest next to me was, back from the ones that never done it at all, was 4 years. So you had this huge span of people from different walks of life doing different things and probably wanting to wrestle for totally different reasons. There was, the psychological part of it was very difficult or challenging, to say the least, just because you know to expect the unexpected. You have no idea what's coming next. And the difference between that show and a regular reality show is, if I got cast on a regular reality show, I mean, I say the grass is always greener, of course, and I probably wouldn't feel the same now, but I'd say, it'd be a breeze because all we knew with that's some BS competition where you're worried about getting a date the next night or whatever, whereas this is like, you know it's going to be physical, you know it's going to be tough, and you know it's going to be something you absolutely, hate, or, it's going to just really test you, and you have to be in that mindset 24 hours a day, and literally 24 hours a day, because you don't know, at 3 in the morning, they might come wake us up and tell us to go on a run to the mountain. And,
the way it came off on TV, is that kind of a true indication of how it was to actually live the experience? Yeah,
it was very, if it came off as we had no idea what was going on and we're like scared little, freaking sheep trying to figure out where to go, it was like we were, it's a little bit, the one thing I regret is it was like, for myself anyways, and I felt like the others too, like you're walking on eggshells, because I had previously had no experience doing darks or anything for WWE. And I'm like, man, what do I do that's right and wrong here? I know it can be political. I know it can be, I guess in the end, as long as you're you, once again, you can't fail by being you,
Right.
You just be like, look, man, I did what I can with what I have, and that's all I can do.
Yeah.
But, so it's mentally kind of wearing because of that, but,
very cool. Well, having done both of those, experiences, do you feel that the door is open, closed, or anything for either of those companies, both WWE or TNA?
I think the door is totally open for both. I do. The response from the gut check thing, I look back on it, and I asked, I begged and pleaded for something, negative. What did I do that I could work on or whatever? And even in the ring is what it came down to. And there was really nothing. It wasn't get a new career, kid, or go back to playing the guitar or anything like that. Like Al Snow said on TV, he's the one that initially said, look, Ryan's come a long way, and I really think he deserves a shot at this. And he's told me from day one he thought I was crazy for wanting to do this instead of play guitar. But the reward, I played guitar since I was 5, and when I'm playing going down to the ring, I never think about what I'm going to play or how I'm going to play it, or, I just strictly feel, and he sees that and he appreciates that, and then he just always tells me, once again, another parallel with wrestling, just feel when you're in that ring, be you, do your thing, and that started to come out now. Whether it's a timing thing or whatever, knows the answer, but, at the end of the day, like I said, there was no, even Bruce Pritchard, it wasn't like, there's no good reason for, I could have accepted it if it was a, whatever, you lack charisma or you lack this or you lack that, but I couldn't get that out of anybody. So in my mind, that door is definitely open, and I'm already at developmental, so I just keep there. They keep their eye on me. At least I've worked for that company now. I've had my foot in the door.
Absolutely.
And, I can go as, show improvement, and as long as I don't regress, I'll be fine,
What did you think of the recent turmoil in the company? You mentioned Bruce Pritchard. He was just let go last night. Now we're looking at a company that looks like they're restructuring. A lot of guys that would have been your should you have gotten approved on Tough Enough, that would have been your peers are all been released. Everybody from somebody you still work with, Taylor Hendricks, to all the other guys that were released. What was how do you feel about the turmoil and the uncertainty about certain things going on right now behind the scenes at Impact?
Well, majority of those releases were former gut check winners and whatnot, and I thought, well, hell, I said, maybe it's good I didn't become a part of that trend, But, I make a joke about it, but, I shouldn't. And maybe, yeah, they're restructuring, and if that's the case, why wouldn't you want some new character that's actually a character that people can relate to, good or bad, and that's all I can do is just show that, and once again, for somebody having 4 years, wrestling, I couldn't, I can't blame a company, basically the second top company in the world for, I shouldn't say second, I'd say one of the top, just because, but can't blame them for wanting to, maybe make sure that somebody with only a few years really wants it, or really, why would you put money into that person and do that if they're going to burn out a month down the road,
Fair enough.
And
Fair enough.
I was going to say, it's sad, all those jobs, it's always sad when somebody loses their job. We don't want to see that happen, but, and I'm sure, too, there's plenty of guys there that are paranoid or worried in the nature of the business. When one guy loses his job, somebody else will get a job, and, that's why it's so cutthroat as it is, but,
Very cool. You mentioned chicks a few times, and you're married to one. Jessie.
Oh, geez.
How's everything going on with Jessie?
Oh, she's a handful. She's all right.
Was that something that just bloomed at OVW, or is that something that you guys had going on before OVW?
No. It was something actually quite a while before. We met. Oh man, crazy story. But I had started kind of getting into the wrestling thing and going on the road. I'm from up northwest Indiana, kind of by Chicago is where I was living, and I would travel every Wednesday down to Evansville. A guy that ran the promotion wanted me to work with. He wanted me to learn from Tracy Smothers, if you're familiar with him.
Absolutely, yeah, Wild-Eyed Southern Boy.
Oh, man, yes, sir. And, man, the guy just, everything up, like, there was others that, taught me to bump and do this, but all the important stuff, the psychology and why I'm doing what I'm doing and how I'm doing it, came from that guy. He's just incredibly good. Like, I hate to say underrated, because I know once you get out there and people know who he is and everything, but he just, if there could be a handful of guys in this world, if they go and pick 5 guys in the world to train people, like, without doubt, he would be one of them, because he's good, and maybe because he didn't want to deal with the bullshit and politics and everything and kiss people's ass, I admire that too, because that's the rock star attitude in me as well, F off, I'll do it my way, But anyway, so I started going down there, and of course, Jessie Bell was, the legitimate daughter, as he says, and I remember I heard her. I'm getting dressed in the locker. I hadn't even seen him. I got there to the show. I was, because I'm coming from a long ways away. It was getting there just about a half hour before bell time, but talked to him a little bit, and as I'm getting dressed, I hear them go down to the ring and cutting a promo, and I had to run up because she was talking so good on that microphone. It was at the old Coliseum in Evansville, and she just had those people so mad at her and hating her, but it was just so genuine how much of a really, excuse the language, bitch she was on that microphone, man. She was just, the meanest person you could ever encounter. So, as time went on, that first night, basically Tracy told the promoter, he's like, I like him, I want to bring, so they started bringing me, what was supposed to be a one-time thing became a weekly thing, and I'm driving 6 hours every day, working at the meat shop in the day and in Chicago and driving down and, going straight back to work the next day on Thursday, but what can you do?
Very cool.
Can't tell Tracy no. But anyways, we'd met through him. He basically played matchmaker. He actually called for, he put us together. She didn't want anything to do with one of the boys, and he was real persistent on it. And long story short, here we are. So
awesome. Well, that's a great story, man. I had no idea, and about a year ago, we're coming up pretty close to your anniversary of winning the OVW TV title. What's your aspirations now? What's the goals for wrestling? Is it just to get on one of the top 2-tier companies here in the U.S., or are you looking to accomplish more goals in OVW?
Yeah, it's definitely on. Of course, like in the present, I'm in OVW, I'm there, and we always make the most of the moment. I live in the present, I'm all for that. I live in the present and plan for the future. So future, my eyes are just set completely on, one of those top 2 companies, trying to get in and do my thing and really make a splash, because I know I can. I know I can be different. And in the meantime, I'll keep making a splash and being different at OVW. And of course, there can always be a second TV title run, and I look forward to that. As far as I know, I'm still third in line for the heavyweight. So we'll see what happens. really motivational when you find that stuff out, because you realize what you've been doing is, once again, what I've put into it is now paying off, you know, whether it's on a weekly, whether you're looking at it from a weekly perspective or months or years. So
is that something the guys get together and like look at it like a baseball roster almost? Like, I wonder where I'm hitting now. Is it something that you guys really take to heart, the rankings?
Yeah, I mean, I do, just because, you know, there's that much faith in you behind that company to be that far up the ladder, and they know, you know, when the guy at the top of the mountain is the one that's going to, I mean, essentially he's your poster child, and he's pulling that company, and, you know, the further you down, it's, you know, you're down, it's systematic, and you just, you know, and I'm very proud to be part of OVW. I'm very lucky to be, you know, involved with them and having been there as long as I have and be as happy as I am there. Some of the best talent in the world. I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with me and Jesse's road schedule. We travel all over all the time. And
oh, yeah. We post a lot of results from a lot of shows you guys do. So, yeah, absolutely. We're familiar with it. Absolutely.
Yeah. She's a social media queen. I'm always, for the record, everybody out there, she posts it, but it's because I'm always driving. I'm a responsible driver that will not Facebook, tweet, or text and drive. So.
Yeah, she's my Facebook friend, and I don't think I've ever said a peep or anything to her yet. So there you go.
Oh yeah. She's but yeah, she keeps up on that. And there's so much incredible, like, just good talent and neat people, and just really, you know, if you keep an open mind, you can learn from everybody, whether it's what not to do or what to do. And you know, but once again, back to OVW, you know, it's one of the, I mean, underneath, I mean, there's some of the best guys I've ever worked with, and really just made me step up my game and be what a good wrestler is.
Cool.
You know.
Well, I'm going to close out with just a question I wanted to ask you, just for me. I don't know if anybody else would be interested, but, you know, you and I share the two major loves. You know, I'm a big rock and roll fan, have been since I was just a kid. I mean, God, I have a CD collection, me and my wife, that rivals the Walmart. You know what I mean? It's a pretty good collection of CDs. With that said, we also have the biggest wrestling collection that I can imagine as well. So I'm going to ask you, who was your major musical influence? If you had to name just one guy.
Angus Young.
There you go. Well, I could see that with the way you play the guitar. Absolutely. All righty. And major wrestling influence, if you had to name just one guy.
Oh, my God. This always gets so much heat, but it's so true. Warrior, Ultimate Warrior.
The Ultimate Warrior, really?
And honest to God.
Didn't see that coming, honestly. So there you go. That's surprising.
It would be, and it's very, very close between him and Macho Man. I only see Ultimate Warrior because that was what, like, when I was 5 or 6 years old, that I would, you know, color in my coloring book, and that was the first wrestling buddy I had. I remember distinctly being at, I think it was Kmart, having to choose between Macho Man and Ultimate Warrior for a birthday present for a wrestling buddy, and I chose Warrior. But then I picked Macho Man, one of those punching bags that comes back and hits you, so.
There you go.
But essentially, like, when back then, you know, Ultimate Warrior was the only one coming out to, like, heavy metal music.
Well,
you know,
he had the rock star hair at the time,
yep,
absolutely.
He had the hair, and that's what, to me, that's what a rock and roll wrestler would have been, and that embodied that, and that's what made me kind of what I want to be. It's crazy. Now as time goes on, of course, you appreciate guys like Randy Savage and what they've done for the business, or have done for the business, you know, much, much more. Shawn Michaels, you know, Ricky Steamboat, and you know, the list goes on and on. But yeah, that's those Angus Young and the Ultimate Warriors.
Yeah. It's pretty good. I have one of the two on the wall, so there you go. That works. All right, man. Well, I can't thank you enough for spending this much time with us. Is there anything before I let you go that you'd like to say to your fans?
Man, just appreciate all the support. You know, just keep Twitter is Mr. Howe too, MrHaweto. I know I gotta kind of explain that to people because I'm sure they search Ryan Howe and they can't find it. So I figured it's a little clever thing. Just keep up on that for my shows. I'm always keeping everybody updated on OVW. I've been teaming over there with Rockstar Spud quite a bit, so we'll see what holds in the future for that. We all know he's a very, very talented signed guy in TNA.
Very talented guy. Oh, yeah. They had high hopes for him. In fact, Bully Ray did an interview fairly recently and said he's the future of the TNA. So high praise from the now former TNA champion.
Yeah, now former, right? This is a recent interview putting that out there. So, but yeah, so that's kind of an interesting thing. You know, people are comparing it to like that Rock and Roll Express, New Rockers type thing. So
right.
We'll see. A lot of high energy, a lot of action, just something really fun. So other than that,
cool.
you know, everybody keep rocking and appreciate it, you know, everybody.
And I hope everybody does know that the OVW TV, if you don't get it, if you don't live in, you know, Louisville, you can always get it on ovwrestling.com, and that's how I watch it every week. I'm in Arizona, but I like to keep up with it because it is a great source of just down and dirty wrestling.
It is, yeah. It's they do a very, you know, it's really neat. It's kind of such a throwback to like that. You know, I loved, you know, watching, you know, just when I was growing up, and I get to watch the AWA reruns and things like that, and it's, you know, they just do such a good job with it. That
absolutely,
you know, a lot of people working very hard there just for the passion and love of it, and I admire that. And for the record, I didn't know you were in Arizona. It's like my favorite state, so rock it out for me, man.
Very cool. Ever play out here in Arizona?
We at Tucson. We've been through Tucson before. I'm trying to think of what club.
Very cool.
Let's see if I can look up what club it was, but I'll let you know if I can.
You can just Facebook that to me. That's fine. Very cool.
Yeah.
Now I'm closer to Phoenix, but that's cool, man. All right, well, I really appreciate you spending this much time with us, and
Hey, this is Michael Manna, but you may know me better under one of my many names. Stevie Richards, Big Stevie Cole from the BWO, Dr. Stevie from TNA. I can't remember the R20, but I do remember that you're listening to the interactive interview.
This is Lady Tapa, and you're listening to Interactive Wrestling Radio. Choo-hoo!
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Interactive Wrestling Radio right here on WrestlingEpicenter.com and YouTube. Joining us on the line right now, you just heard him cough, is Mr. Patrick Kelly. Are you with us?
I'm here. How you doing, sir?
Doing great, man. We just finished up with Ryan Howe a few minutes ago, and a great guy. You know, every now and again, I talk about somebody on the show, and they end up doing something on TV, and it's a sense of pride, really, for me to think, you know, I'm kind of like a scout of sorts. Ryan Howe was one of those guys that I saw on OVW TV. Didn't even remember him from being on Tough Enough, or either that or he wasn't doing the whole gimmick then, so I didn't, you know, put two and two together. But saw the gimmick, loved it. It's a real gimmick. He used to play in a band. I mean, he really is a rock guy. It's not like a fabricated thing put together like a... The best way I could compare it is if you've ever seen those late-night commercials for the Monster Ballads commercials, and they have the guy playing the air guitar, like acting like a jackass.
Right.
He's not like that. He legitimately can play the Star Spangled Banner.
Or like other rock star gimmicks. I remember when TNA had the Rock and Rave Infection, and they were playing like Guitar Hero guitars. They weren't like really rock stars, but this guy do really play. And his entrance, actually, when he showed up for that gut check match, I was like, that was actually pretty cool.
It was. He stands out because of it. I mean, it hasn't been done since everybody wants to talk about Man Mountain Rock, who I remember better as Max Payne, but they talk a lot about Man Mountain Rock. And, you know, he did play the guitar as well, but I don't know, that was just a little bit gimmicky, maybe because he wasn't in shape. I'm not sure what you could say, but he really looks like, you know, I don't know how it's going to translate.
Right now looks like a rock star.
Oh, absolutely.
He looks the part, too.
He looks the part, he plays the part, and yeah, I hope people do check out his OVW work, because the match he had on Impact, which we didn't talk about much during the show, was definitely not to showcase his best stuff. His best stuff was definitely not put into that match. In fact, you said that you weren't even a fan of the match. But
no, I wasn't. Well, I told you, it looked like that they wanted to get the Big O over instead of him, so the match was worked around making him look like a monster, and unfortunately the poor dude was green as goose shit.
That's a problem. I mean, and they've got to stop doing that. That's a big problem with the gut check. If they're even going to continue doing it or not is a debate anyway, because half the guys are...
They've let most of them go, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but if they keep doing it, they have to book it in such a way that the one that they think they're going to review is going to be the one that they actually review, because, like, okay, Lady Tapa, you just tapped out. Let's review how you did. It's like, well, you just saw her get beat, so maybe she should have killed the girl who was half her size, and made us believe that she could be a monster, because that's what she looks like. She looks like she could be, obviously she's not as big as Kong, but she definitely is bigger than Velvet Sky. So she would definitely play the power role. I mean, it seems to me like it's backwards booking to review the guy who lost. Like, even they did that with the Mexican dude who sucks, and that they said no to right away. I can't even remember. Magno, was it?
Yeah.
I mean, and Adam Pearce won the match. And Adam Pearce was more impressive because when he did moves, he didn't land on his freaking head.
That was a weird one, yeah. The whole process of the gut check thing was really strangely done.
Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, I really enjoy this guy's gimmick. I told you guys, I say you guys because Nick was on the show at the time, that he reminds me very much of a character I created that was kind of like a cross between two rock stars, Janie Lane and Ace Frehley, that I did in my No Mercy video game, 13 years ago. So when I saw him come out, it was like, okay, he's got the same hair, he's got the bandana thing going, he's playing the guitar, he's got the jacket on. I mean, it was the rock star look done with a wrestler who can actually work. I mean, it really is kind of like something that I dreamed up 13 years ago come into reality. So it's really cool. I think he could go far with it. I think the gimmick definitely would have worked better 20 years ago when people had better taste in music. I think it definitely would have gone over better then. I'm not going to be I can't deny that, but what can you do? That's outside of it.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to listen to the interview yet, so I'll look forward to doing that.
Very cool. I mean, we split our conversation between wrestling and music, and I think hopefully people liked it. Hopefully stuck with it. But there's other big news this week, other than TNA letting go half their roster, is...
But who did they let go that was that significant?
Just Doc. He's the main one. That kind of what you're like, oh, you know what? They seem to have a plan for him all along, and then they never really put it into fruition.
Right.
Because even at the end, it looked like they were going to turn him babyface and turn on Kennedy Anderson, and they never did. And it's like, well, he might be in line for a babyface push. Nope, he's in line for a retirement. So that was it. It made no sense to get rid of him. Bruce Pritchard going, a lot of people have made a big deal about that. They always are doing office structural changes. It's a shame to see him go. I think he offered a degree of seniority that helped out a lot, but if he wasn't willing to accept a pay cut when all the other office staff were, then there's no other alternative but to let him go.
Right.
Anyway, but big news is...
Amazingly, they were still able to put on their Destination X show, even with their roster.
I want to give one of our Facebook guys a promotion here. I changed our Facebook picture, and probably be changed by the time this goes up, to be the poster for Destination X, and it has Jeff Hardy and Hogan and Bully Ray, Sting, and I can't even remember, Kurt Angle and somebody else on there. And they said, hey, it's everybody that they didn't fire that's left. It's all that's left on their roster or something like that. I thought, not far off, but okay. Big night, Destination X. Only thing that would have made it better is if it wasn't on a regular Impact, if they would have had it on a different night on free TV. But great night, and capped off with a surprising, on many levels, title win by Chris Sabin.
Yeah, I was I'll give TNA credit for this. Throughout the night, I was watching and I'm like, I don't know who's going to win this, because the idea kept creeping into my head that Hogan's giving him the pep talk, and throughout the match, Bully Ray was just beating the holy hell out of him, which is normally when that happens, it's like oh my God, Sabin might come back and win this, and sure enough, he did, and it's an interesting pick. I'll give him that. So we'll see where it goes from there, but. That's a TNA original that they just put the strap on, so it's a very interesting move on their part. And, you got to be happy for Chris Sabin, a guy who's been there for so long and worked so hard. And, he's made it into that elite class now.
He has, and, I am happy for him. We had him on this show back in 2003 when he was just fresh off dangling off of 10 years ago when he just won that first Ultimate X match when he was dangling off the belt and it would not come down, and he ended up coming down like a sack of potatoes holding that thing. But he said he was not coming down without it. I knew then he was destined for greatness. I would have been satisfied knowing that his greatness was capped off by the Motor City Machine Guns, but as it turns out, he was destined for single success as well. So good for him. I'm really happy for him. The question I have for you is, last year, Bobby Roode lost the title to Austin Aries, and it kind of threw off what we had planned, or I thought was going to be the plan for Bound for Glory. What happens with the plan for Bound for Glory now, with Sabin beating Bully Ray?
I think they did this. I really think they did this to open up the door for Bully versus Hogan. It's like, all right, the title's not involved. We can do that match now, and then we can do Sabin versus the winner of the Bound for Glory series, which I guess would be either Aries or AJ, if I had to guess.
Well, Aries would be a good choice because they had some interactions on Impact.
And that's another thing. Giving more credit to TNA, I thought Aries was going to cost him the title.
I thought somebody was going to turn. I thought maybe because the only guy who wasn't wearing a suit was Rampage Jackson, and he's frankly got no purpose being in the main event Mafia. I thought they were going to turn him heel, thus giving some feud for the Angle and Rampage match at Bound for Glory. Rampage Jackson turning heel, then you got an Aces and Eights versus Angle match, essentially. But no, they didn't do that. They did not do that. They didn't go that direction. No surprising turns, just the surprising result. Let's not rule out the possibility that Bully could win the belt back. This could be a Luger beating Hogan on Nitro thing, and Hogan getting the belt back 6 nights later. You know what I mean? This could very easily just change the next Impact tapings. But the plan that I thought was...
Well, they're doing another Impact special. They're doing Hardcore Justice as a live Impact special, so... And, spoiler alert, the main event's already been said. It's going to be Bully Ray versus Chris Sabin for the title in a steel cage.
Really? And when's that going to be?
Sometime in August.
Wow. Well, I mean, maybe he should get the belt back, because I thought the plan all along was going to be AJ and Bully Ray, because if AJ doesn't win the Bound for Glory series, he's essentially lost in the shuffle again, despite the gimmick change.
Yeah.
And that's a shame. That'd be a shitty way to treat an original.
Yeah, especially since they put so much into this new character for him, yeah.
What are you going to do? So, yeah, that was what happened on Impact, and I've watched it a few times since then. I really enjoyed the crowd. They might want to think about playing Louisville some more often, because they did a couple of shows in Peoria, Illinois, and that crowd blew. They royally sucked. I mean, it sounded like they were just filming in the middle of a shopping mall and people weren't even paying attention.
Yeah.
It was like the background chatter of a Little League baseball game. It sucked.
God, I'm trying to remember which show that was.
That was the ones before Vegas. The ones before Vegas. Vegas was a pretty good crowd.
Before Vegas. Yeah. Well, it's Vegas. They're probably all high anyway. Or drunk.
Probably drunk or overly emotional, or losing their life savings to the casino or something like that. So there were some reactions. There were some reactions there, at least. I mean, the reaction Hogan got when he came out was chilling, and Sabin winning the belt and the crowd reaction to that was very cool too. Very reminiscent of when Dolph got the belt by cashing in the Money in the Bank. So there was some really cool stuff. They might want to think about playing there more often, especially if they're, and I want to say this real quick, and then I want to discuss Money in the Bank, WWE. There's been a lot of people with all the releases, people saying things like, well, how could they release all these guys and still keep Hogan and Sting on the roster? Well, I'll go this far. Hogan and Sting don't do the house shows. House show attendance is about 400. Last night's Impact, 4,000 people there. Any questions? That's why they keep them around. They sell tickets.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't. Sorry, I'm a little flustered there for whatever reason. I didn't know what the attendance numbers were last night.
Yeah, they were between 3,000 504,000. So it's pretty good crowd for a TNA event.
Okay. All right, that's not bad.
Yeah, I think they said it seated about 5 to 6, and it was mostly full. It was not. They didn't have to rope off any areas, which was.
Which, by the way, there's actually, speaking of TNA live events, there's going to be one in Hagerstown, Maryland, in a couple weeks.
You gonna check it out?
Probably not, because it's like literally to Hagerstown, that's an hour-and-a-half long drive, and I'm like, yeah,
okay.
I don't know if I want to do that. Yeah.
There you go. Any big matches announced for it?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Yeah. I'll definitely go see them when they come back to Phoenix, but they haven't announced anything for Phoenix yet. So.
No, they're going back to Bound for Glory is going to be in San Diego, which kind of surprised me. Because isn't that where they held it in 2009 and the number there?
No, they held it in L.A. in 2009, but yeah, it is the same general area, the Southern California area, and they drew 837 people.
Seriously?
That was what they drew, yes.
Holy shit. That ain't good.
And hence why I say, why do they pay Hogan the money that they do? Because an Impact taping just got 4,000 people in the seats, and their Bound for Glory event got 800, 4 years ago. So that's why they keep Hogan around. I'm not trying to be a sycophant for Hogan here. I'm just trying to give you brass tacks, dollars and cents numbers here, and that's what it is.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. What else? What else are we talking about?
We were talking about Money in the Bank, WWE pay-per-view.
Money in the Bank, yeah. Some interesting things happened here. One very interesting briefcase winner and one not so interesting briefcase winner is Damian Sandow won, which actually was a pleasant surprise, and Randy Orton won, which made me roll my eyes.
Right.
And that rhymed.
And Orton had like a miscarriage or some shit on the SmackDown taping. I have no idea what the hell that injury is. But he got put out of action for at least a few weeks, I think, with that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Now, I wish they had just given the briefcase to Daniel Bryan and just used that to set up the SummerSlam match because I'm looking forward to that match because I think it's going to be one of those matches where the fans are going to hate Cena so much and they're going to love his opponent so much that it's just going to create a wonderful atmosphere. And so I'm really looking forward to that match, actually. But I wish they had just used the Money in the Bank briefcase instead of doing the segment that they did on Raw.
Well, they should have done that, and they could have done something really cool, like because Bryan's not really a heel, is he? Would you call him a heel?
No, he can't be. He can't be. Not at this point, no.
So what I would do if I were them would have.
I mean, if they did that, it'd be going against the grain.
Well, they like to do that, but yeah, because they like to dictate. But
well, I mean, they did it. I mean, truthfully, they tried to do that with CM Punk and John Cena a couple years ago, and they tried to make CM Punk the heel, and the fans just weren't going to have that. They were like, no, we're going to tell you who the heel is, and his name is John Cena.
Well, they kind of did that with Undertaker too. It's like, we're afraid the crowd might cheer Cena. What are we going to do? Well, he's going to play football what they earn. All right, that might do it. So that was kind of. What were we talking about? Anyway, taking a step back. What I would have done if I was booking it, and this is an ingenious idea in my opinion, if I say so myself, I would have had Daniel Bryan win the Money in the Bank match. I would have not had him cash it in, but had him just qualify and get the match at SummerSlam anyway. So he still has that Money in the Bank in the back pocket, right? What I would have done is, whoever Cena's going to be, Cena versus the Monsters is going to be next. After Bryan loses, and I would have Bryan lose the first match at SummerSlam, I'd have whatever monster Cena's going to be wrestling next come out and just beat the tar out of him. And Bryan cash in then and win the Money in the Bank.
Interesting. Yeah. That is actually really interesting, having a guy win the world. This is, building off of that, what if Daniel Bryan won the first time and then held both the world title and the Money in the Bank? So that way it's like, all right, if you're going to take the title from me, you got to beat me twice.
Well, I mean, we've talked about it before. What I would have done last year was to have Dolph win the title and then have a unification match at WrestleMania to unify the titles.
Yeah, there's so many interesting things they could do with the briefcases, but they just keep doing the shock cash-in things, and that's actually pretty disappointing.
Yeah, exactly. And last thing I want to touch on this week, and then we call it a day, is the makings of a very good feud with CM Punk and Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman.
Oh, how good was that segment on Raw?
Very good. That
was
one of the best things
amazing
I've seen on WWE TV. Yeah, one of the best things I've seen on WWE TV in probably a year.
Oh wow, yeah, it was awesome, and and you really do see the value of a Brock Lesnar when he's working with somebody like CM Punk, because CM Punk and Heyman, they can do all the talking and give that aspect to it, and Brock's just there to be the Ivan Drago, and that's the best way to use Brock Lesnar. Look, just let him be the silent monster that kills people, and it works.
Right, and that's all he has to be, and the worst mistake.
And now that he's past the Triple H bullshit, he'll actually look like a monster.
Right, exactly, and he's working with a smaller guy as well, which also helps. Which most people are smaller than Brock, but Triple H is pretty close to his size, so that's also why it didn't work. But
yeah.
But yeah, I think the matches will be great. I think Punk will definitely give it psychology, and as you said, keeping the microphone out of Brock's mouth is definitely a good way to go. He's like
the best character in wrestling, and he doesn't say a word. I mean, that's the best way to use him.
Absolutely. Well,
remember when he was a babyface in 2003?
Yeah, that sucked. Some people should never be a babyface.
Yeah, exactly.
All righty, dude. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed this episode, enjoyed the interview. Actually, coming up, we're going to have a couple of interesting guests, one of which will be Doc, formerly of the Aces and Eights, as well as a returning guest, and Patrick doesn't even know this one yet. Taylor Hendricks is going to be coming back to join us, which will be very
cool. Yeah, cool. We'll have her back.
Absolutely. Yeah, good-looking chick and good worker. And you know what? She asked for her release, so it's definitely a gutsy chick. Hopefully her decision works out for her, and she'll be joining us in the next couple of weeks as well. Hope everybody enjoyed this show, and I'm working on some changes to things, dude. I want to see if we could do like a simulcast where we film like on the webcam and do the conversation that way. If that makes any sense to you. Like we have a conversation.
Right. I might have to get a new webcam to do that, but we can talk about that.
That is definitely something I'd be interested in doing, just to give people something different to look at. Not that they want to look at either of us, but I don't know. I have some pretty funny facial features when I'm getting animated about shit. So anyway.
Yeah, well, there's two of us, Sunglass McGee and Arizona Boy or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I do the sunglasses thing too. I just don't. It's you said Bret Hart said it. Your eyes wander to the left when you're thinking. So.
Yeah, my eyes. I have this bad habit of when I'm thinking of something, my eyes will just look off screen while I'm thinking, and it looks really bad. So I was like, no, I wear sunglasses. People don't notice. Although you can kind of see my head tilt a little bit, and that when that happens, I'm looking off screen.
I'm sure nobody examines it to that degree. All right, well,
probably not.
Thanks again to Ryan Howe for joining us for this interview. It's a great interview to get in the can. I can't speak tonight. Great interview to have in the can. Hope everybody does listen to it. I'm predicting great things for this guy, and check him out at ovwrestling.com because they have all the OVW shows on there. And, man, it's down and dirty old school wrestling, and everybody who says they want to see it still, you get to see it with some TNA trainees and TNA hopefuls, and it really is some good stuff. So hopefully everybody will check that out, and check us out on the archives at WrestlingEpicenter.com and the newsline as well. And on Facebook, like us. Click the like button. We hit 1,000 today, by the way. We hit 1,000.
Oh, wow, cool. I feel like we've doubled in the last 3 months or something.
Yeah, I wonder what changed.
Well, I'm not going to go there.
All righty, dude.
Not go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. I get you. Don't worry about it. All righty, dude. Well, take care. Thanks again, everybody. Hope everybody enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you next week here at WrestlingEpicenter.com.